Hello, my name is Josie. Welcome to the Yoga Local podcast. I'm recording this from our studio here in Wellingborough in the UK. So welcome, thank you for joining. The conversation today is about the ego. And my take on the ego is, well, to be honest, I think everyone has an idea of what ego is. It's one of the few things that when people come to class, that they already have some kind of understanding already inbuilt. But there's still some confusion around the ego, and there's this idea that maybe we should be trying to eliminate the ego, certainly move beyond the ego, right? So let's just have a little conversation about the ego before we begin to talk about a teaching which you may be less familiar with, which is Asmita. And Asmita is when we are overly attached to our sense of ego, okay, which the yoga tradition would remind us moves us away from our sense of true self and therefore causes suffering and limitation. But back to the ego. The ego has a very meaningful purpose in our human experience. So if you think of the ego as that part of you that is constantly narrating the experiences and the situations in your life, creating some kind of meaning around it that then can identify and shape your perception of yourself so that you can operate in this physical manifest world that we share with other people. So it has a very real purpose. The problem is, as I said earlier, is that we can start to overly attach ourselves to our sense of ego, which causes us to restrict who we are and what is possible for us. We kind of have already decided who we are, what we are, and we kind of box ourselves into our ego personality. And that makes it very difficult for us to start to unbox and explore what else might be possible for us if we're not so tightly bound by the ego personality. Okay, so Asmita is just that sneaky little habit we have of identifying too much with our ego. How do you know? Well, have you ever found yourself constantly trying to validate who you are, okay, from others, or comparing who you are, comparing your achievements, comparing your level of performance with others? If you kind of recognize that, that's Asmita in action, okay? We're overly identifying with our ego personality. It's just like a little monkey on your back, right? Often telling you that you're not good enough, this is not for you, this is not who you are, I don't do this, I don't try this, okay? And it puts a strain on everything, because suddenly you're not open to new conversations, you're not open to new experiences, you're not open to becoming anything more than the ego has already kind of set aside for you. And the ego works hard to protect that individual sense of self. And what yoga is as a practice is starting to remind you that these are just constructs that have been created to help us navigate certain situations, certain relationships, certain experiences that we're having in life. And they'll have served us in the moment, but if we start to overly identify with them and we consider them as all we are and all we can be, then, we're right, that is all we are and that is all we can be. But the truth is, and this is kind of all tied into the kleshas, and we've done a post last week about avidya, this ignorance of the self causing all our suffering, forgetting who we really are, which is above the level of the mind, the level of the ego, And when we start to practice and get still enough to hold a light up to these moments when that monkey on our back is not serving us, it's moving us into comparison, and it's moving us into not enoughness, right? That they're the opportunities for us to arrest, pause, breathe, have some compassion for ourselves, because it's completely normal, but then start to edge out of that attachment to that ego conversation. You know, what if I could be more than that? What if I just try? What if I let that thought go and have a new thought? So our job in yoga is to start to, move beyond the level of ego and witness when the ego is, at the forefront of the moment, right? And start to shift. And energetically, we're working with postures, we're working with breath to help to shift our minds out of these lower, more mundane, more ordinary thoughts into something more auspicious. So we can do that while we're practicing. Like when we notice we're comparing ourselves, where we feel that sense of not enoughness, or that challenge to yourself that you should even be like this is even for you, right? Question, get still, hold the posture, breathe, learn to be in the moment where you can fully balm the moment with some compassion, expand your level of perception, reach into those higher energy centers for the qualities of loving kindness, self-awareness, compassion, freedom, joy, and let those qualities start to energetically shift from this very limited sense of who you are to something that's more free, has more power, has more resilience. Okay, and these are not just things that are going to work for you, like in terms of when you're practicing. So just imagine how much, just imagine how your relationships would be if you have a more open mind, if you were more able to see something from a different perspective, if you would be able to have conversations without becoming triggered or reactive. What would that mean? What would that mean for relationships, but also in your career, for your emotional health? And these are the things that we need to be reaching for in our practice, and not reaching for more flexibility, not reaching for more strength, but reaching for a more stable place in which to reach from, to bring your next thought from, to bring your next action from. And this is what I would kind of describe as meeting yourself where you are, where you're at, and then finding space to allow your less conditioned sense of self, your true self, to come into the foreground and make decisions, actions, and choices from that place. Yoga invites us to remember who we really are and not get lost in the worldly stuff, not get lost in the ego's kind of constructed way of looking and perceiving the world as an individual, as me, Josie, as you, whatever your name is. There's a certain construct that's been created. But yoga's reminding us that's not just who we are. That's who we've become. That's how we've been shaped and molded thus far. But let's not remember there's way more potential for all of us. And the pathway of yoga is moving us more and more skillfully, scientifically, systematically, energetically into the possibility of remembering that you're connected to everything in life, and you don't have to just draw on those very small resources of the personality self to frame your life, to frame what is possible for you. Okay, there's something bigger that we can reach in and connect to, that we can then start to make choices from, react from, respond from. I would prefer to use that word, but to create and co-create our life from that space rather than this very limited sense of ego. All right? So these are the things we explore like on the daily in our studio here. We are always keen to bring these teachings from a very practical point of view, understanding these Sanskrit terms so that you can up level not just your knowledge of yoga, but how you practice yoga out there in the world, and how that helps you to become your most connected true self. I don't know about you, but I often don't feel myself, and it's so easy to fall back. We maybe get glimpses at times, but imagine having the skills, the tools, the practices that just keep you in balance and harmony throughout your day, throughout your week, throughout your life, that can keep you more or less connected to higher self, and less influenced by the lower mind, less influenced by the desires of the ego. So are you ready? Are you ready for this kind of journey? We would love to welcome you here at our studio to take you deeper into these teachings and show you more about what practice has to offer. Let's also be aware, however, that we are an online studio. We do live classes, stream them live, but we also have on-demand classes. And then there's also this other content that I'm producing, my daughter Alison is producing, really from this soul-driven desire to help people use yoga, the tradition of yoga, as it was meant to be taught, to up-level your entire life. And if that sounds something that you're interested in, then please let us know, get in touch, and we'll do all we can to support you, either from our physical bricks and mortar studio here in Wellingborough or online. Either is good. So hope that's all kind of landed for you. If not, just let me know, and I'll see you on the next podcast. Okay, bye for now.